I'd done really nothing about blowing our marriage to smithereens. Barely a year after Keith Urban admitted to almost blowing up his marriage to Nicole Kidman to smithereens, he blew it up one final time. And the whole world is witnessing Nicole crash out badly on Instagram Live. How did they go from loved up to cussing each other out on camera? The fairy tale that wasn't. When Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's separation was confirmed on September 29, 2025, the world collectively gasped. Here was a couple that seemed to have defied Hollywood's odds. 19 years of marriage, two beautiful daughters, and what appeared to be an unshakable bond forged through adversity and unwavering love. But as the dust settled and details began to emerge, it became painfully clear that the fairy tale we'd all believed in had been slowly crumbling behind closed doors for quite some time. The story of how this marriage unraveled is far more complex and heartbreaking than anyone could have anticipated. It's a tale of two incredibly talented individuals whose demanding careers, personal struggles, and the relentless pressures of fame ultimately drove a wedge between them that even their deep love couldn't overcome. But to truly understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning, to that magical moment when an Australian actress and a country music star found each other in the chaos of Hollywood. It was January 2005 at the Jedi USA Gala in Los Angeles when Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban first locked eyes. The event, celebrating Australian talent in Hollywood, brought together two souls who would soon become one of entertainment's most beloved couples. So, I'm going to speak a little bit about a particular view I have of Nick. For a long time now, but I'll start with the fact that we met in January 2005. We're being honored at this event called, Guide Day LA, which sounds a bit like a pickup line from Crocodile Dundee. But here's where the story gets interesting, and perhaps where the first seeds of their eventual troubles were planted. We chatted very briefly. I was trying to play it cool, but inside I felt like I'd snuck into the royal ball. Simply because Nick had such a truly otherworldly aura about her. And I felt a bit like I was meeting a real-life princess. Urban's insecurity was palpable from the start. And despite all of that, I did manage to get her phone number on a tiny piece of paper, and I carried that number in my pocket for well over a week. I pull it out and look at it, then put it back in my pocket. I was just scared. This vulnerability, this sense of unworthiness that Keith felt, even at the beginning, would become a recurring theme throughout their relationship, one that would resurface in devastating ways 2 decades later. The courtship that followed was the stuff of romantic movies. Kidman, fresh from her painful divorce from Tom Cruise, found herself drawn to this talented musician who seemed to offer everything her previous marriage hadn't. Genuine warmth, Australian roots, and a partner who wasn't threatened by her success, or so it seemed. It turned out that this mystic creature was really just a wide-eyed, vivacious, giddy girl from the Sydney suburbs. And despite being born in Honolulu, she was utterly Aussie through and through. They married on June 25, 2006, in a fairy tale ceremony in Sydney, attended by 230 guests, including Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe. Kidman wore a stunning Balenciaga gown, and Urban serenaded her with "Making Memories of Us." Everything seemed perfect. But perfection, as we now know, was an illusion that would shatter within months. Just 4 months into their marriage, Urban's long-standing battles with alcohol and cocaine addiction resurfaced, threatening to destroy everything they'd built. And barely 4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I had done nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens. And I went into the Betty Ford Center for 3 months. 4 months into a marriage. I'm in rehab for 3 months. This moment would define their relationship for years to come. Kidman, demonstrating the kind of strength and commitment that would become her trademark, staged an intervention. Urban would later describe this as a life-saving act of love. I had no idea what was going to happen to us. And if you want to see what love in action really looks like, give that a whirl. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love. Urban has maintained sobriety for nearly 19 years as of 2025, a testament to both his commitment and Kidman's unwavering support. But the question that haunts this story is, did that early crisis create a dynamic where one partner was always the savior and the other always needed saving? Did it establish an imbalance that would eventually become unsustainable? As they moved forward, building their family with the birth of Sunday Rose in 2008 and Faith Margaret in 2010, they presented a united front to the world. They attended countless red carpets together, with Urban supporting Kidman's acting career and Kidman championing Urban's music. We found each other in this huge world and were crazy about each other, you know? But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. Urban's demanding tour schedule and Kidman's international filming commitments meant they spent increasing amounts of time apart. The very careers that had made them who they were, the talents that had drawn them together in the first place, were now pulling them in opposite directions. I choose projects because I feel compelled to tell the story, or I'm really interested in the person who is, the director, or the writer, or the group of actors. Kidman's passion for her craft was undeniable, but it came at a cost. Meanwhile, Urban was experiencing his own professional renaissance with tours that kept him away from home for months at a time. The couple had always maintained that communication was their secret weapon. It was great to find a naughty girl. Yeah, I love that there's balance in my life. I've truly never had that before. But as the years went on, that balance became increasingly difficult to maintain. Phone calls and FaceTime sessions, no matter how frequent, couldn't replace physical presence and genuine intimacy. Then came 2024 and early 2025, when Kidman's career took what some would call an X-rated pivot. Her roles in films like Baby Girl and A Family Affair featured explicit, steamy scenes that reportedly made Urban uncomfortable. Sources claim Urban struggled to see her as his wife amid these liberating roles. A telling moment came in July 2024 when Urban abruptly hung up during a radio interview when questioned about Kidman's sex scenes. This tension over Kidman's professional choices added another layer of complexity to an already strained relationship. Was Urban being controlling, or was this a legitimate boundary issue? Were Kidman's career ambitions overshadowing the needs of their marriage? These are questions without easy answers, and they highlight the impossible balance that many couples in the entertainment industry struggle to maintain. As early summer 2025 approached, the couple began living separately. Urban was on his High and Alive world tour, performing across the United States, while Kidman was filming Practical Magic 2 in London, residing in a luxurious $65,000 per month mansion. The physical distance between them had never been greater, and the emotional gap was widening just as rapidly. Urban acquired his own residence in Nashville, separate from their family home, a move that insiders describe as the turning point. This wasn't just about convenience or work schedules anymore. This was about a man who had decided he needed space, who had come to a conclusion about his marriage that his wife hadn't yet reached. And that's where our story takes its most heartbreaking turn. According to multiple sources, Kidman was completely blindsided by Urban's decision. The unraveling. The summer of 2025 would prove to be the longest and most painful season of Nicole Kidman's life, since her divorce from Tom Cruise nearly a quarter-century earlier. While Keith Urban toured the United States, performing night after night to sold-out crowds who had no idea his personal life was imploding, Kidman found herself alone in London, grappling with a reality she never saw coming. The woman who had stood by Urban through his darkest days, who had saved his life when addiction threatened to destroy him, was now facing the possibility that love, even the deepest, most committed love, might not be enough. According to sources close to the couple, Urban initiated the separation, leaving Kidman devastated and desperate to save their marriage. Keith wasn't happy in the marriage, one insider revealed, and was forced to confront her. This confrontation, which allegedly took place in front of friends, must have been excruciating for both of them. Urban finally voiced frustrations he'd been harboring for who knows how long, and Kidman realized that the partnership she'd poured her heart and soul into was crumbling before her eyes. The reasons for the split are that the painter paints a picture of a marriage slowly suffocated by the very things that should have enriched it. The primary issue, according to multiple sources, was a devastating lack of intimacy. Keith never sees Nicole. Either she is filming or he is on tour, one source explained. But this wasn't just about physical absence. It was about emotional disconnect. They are just going through the motions, another insider shared, painting a picture of two people who had become strangers living parallel lives, rather than partners building a shared existence. What makes this particularly heartbreaking is how hard they both try to make it work. Yeah, and there are times in which you can balance it, and you do less, and then you can do a little more, and you do less. And finding that balance is part of the journey, because you make mistakes. You overdo it. So then you go, okay, now I've got to go and take care of this part of my life because it suffered. And so it's constantly rebalancing. Kidman had always been acutely aware of the need for balance. And do you feel like you're doing that constantly? All the time? Yeah. But even with this awareness, even with her best intentions, the scales had tipped too far. Her career, particularly in recent years, had demanded more of her than ever before. The roles she was taking on weren't just professionally challenging. They were emotionally and physically demanding in ways that required her to dig deep into herself, leaving little energy for anything else. I overdid it here. Now I've got to balance here. Yeah, and probably the thing I'll do, and my husband's always saying, take care of yourself, Nicole. That's what he tells you. Take care of yourself. Yeah. These words spoken in an interview before the separation now carry a haunting presence. Urban had been trying to tell her something, had been expressing concern not just for her well-being, but perhaps for the well-being of their marriage. But in the whirlwind of career demands and family responsibilities, had his message gotten lost? The loss of Kidman's mother, Janelle, in September 2024, added another layer of grief and stress to an already fragile situation. Oh, and the final words of my mama said, which I didn't know were going to be the final words, I was going to get on a plane and go back to see her. And she was like, maybe wait a minute, because I think, you just need to take care of yourself right now, Nikki. So, I'm doing that more. Her mother's final advice to take care of herself must have echoed in Kidman's mind during those lonely summer months in London. But how do you take care of yourself when your marriage is falling apart? How do you process grief and heartbreak simultaneously, especially when the person who should be your biggest source of comfort is the one pulling away? Friends of the couple revealed that the split hasn't been a secret, and that many in Urban Circle felt it was inevitable. This revelation is particularly painful because it suggests that while Kidman may have been blindsided, others saw the end coming. Had she been in denial? Or had she simply been too busy, too focused on her work and her family to notice the signs that were apparently obvious to everyone else? Their last public appearance together was on June 20th, 2025, at a FIFA Club World Cup match in Nashville. They appeared affectionate, but body language experts later noted subtle signs of tension, minimal eye contact, self-soothing gestures from Kidman, and a general sense of disconnection. These weren't dramatic displays of discord, but rather the quiet erosion of intimacy that happens when two people are slowly drifting apart. Social media provided additional clues to those paying attention. Kidman posted a loving anniversary tribute on June 25, 2025, captioning a black-and-white photo of them cuddling with Happy Anniversary Baby. But Urban didn't reciprocate on his platforms, a departure from previous years that now seems like a glaring red flag. By August 2025, Kidman's Instagram Summer Memories recap featured her daughters and an extended family, but omitted Urban entirely. The impact on their daughters, Sunday Rose, 17, and Faith Margaret, 14, cannot be overstated. Sources indicate that Kidman has been leaning heavily on her daughters for emotional support, with the trio being inseparable over the summer while Urban toured. While this closeness speaks to the strength of Kidman's relationship with her children, it also highlights the painful reality that she's been processing this heartbreak while trying to maintain stability for her daughters during their formative years. Kidman has also drawn support from her sister Antonia, who has become a rock during this difficult period. The Kidman family has always been close-knit, and that foundation has proven essential as Nicole navigates one of the most challenging periods of her life. But even with this support system, the pain of a marriage ending, especially one she fought so hard to save, must be overwhelming. The financial implications of the split are very scary. The couple's combined net worth exceeds $325 million, including 11 properties valued at around $56 million. From their $4 million Nashville mansion to their Sydney penthouse worth $16 million, these assets represent not just financial investments, but the life they built together. Each property holds memories of their 19 years together. Holidays, family gatherings, quiet moments of connection that now must be divided and distributed like any other asset. As of September 30th, 2025, no divorce papers have been filed, which has led some to speculate about the possibility of reconciliation. One source suggested that divorce might not be on the table yet, noting that there was a lot of love between the two, and they might not divorce. This glimmer of hope, however faint, suggests that despite everything, the foundation of love they built over nearly 2 decades might still be strong enough to rebuild upon. But hope must be tempered with reality. The separation was described as one-sided, with Kidman fighting to save the marriage, while Urban had already moved on emotionally. This fundamental disconnect, one partner desperately trying to hold on while the other has already let go, is perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of their story. It's a dynamic that plays out in relationships every day. But when it happens to two people who seemed so perfect together, who weathered so many storms, it feels particularly cruel. The aftermath. As the news of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's separation reverberated around the world, the public reaction was swift and emotional. On social media platform X, formerly Twitter, fans expressed shock, heartbreak, and even anger. One user wrote, comparing the news to Australia's 9/11, while others lamented what they saw as Urban throwing away the greatest thing to ever happen to you. The intensity of these reactions speaks to how deeply invested people had become in this couple's love story, and how much we all needed to believe that true love could conquer anything, even in Hollywood. But perhaps the most profound aspect of this unraveling marriage is what it reveals about the impossible standards we place on celebrity relationships and, more importantly, what it teaches us about the reality of love, commitment, and the sacrifices required to maintain both a partnership and individual identities in high-pressure circumstances. The comparison to other celebrity divorces is inevitable. Unlike the contentious 8-year legal battle between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, which involved custody disputes and abuse allegations, the Kidman-Urban separation appears relatively amicable so far. There are no reports of infidelity, no accusations of wrongdoing, just two people whose lives diverged to the point where staying together became more painful than separating. In this way, their split more closely resembles Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin's conscious uncoupling, where the focus remained on friendship and co-parenting rather than assigning blame. But there's a crucial difference. While Paltrow and Martin mutually decided to part ways, Kidman was blindsided by Urban's decision. This one-sided nature of the split adds a layer of complexity and pain that makes reconciliation more challenging. When one partner has already emotionally checked out while the other is still fighting for the relationship, the path forward, whether together or apart, becomes fraught with additional challenges. The separation also invites comparison to Kidman's first marriage to Tom Cruise. That 11-year union, which ended in 2001, was marked by intense public scrutiny and the alleged influence of Scientology. Kidman was also blindsided by that split, describing it as awful and a shock to her system. She later said the divorce left her weary at times in subsequent relationships. Yet with Urban, she had chosen to remain open-hearted. In a 2021 Harper's Bazaar interview, she admitted being hurt by her past, but chose a warm approach over shutting down. She told Urban her heart was open when they met. Now facing another devastating heartbreak, despite her openness and commitment, one can't help but wonder what this means for her future relationships and her willingness to be vulnerable again. The role of their careers in the marriage's demise cannot be overstated. Urban's extensive touring schedules and Kidman's demanding filming commitments created a perfect storm of physical and emotional distance. His High and Alive World Tour, which began in May 2025, kept him on the road for months, while Kidman filmed Practical Magic 2 in London, renting a luxurious mansion without Urban presence. This wasn't a temporary situation. It was the culmination of years of prioritizing individual careers over a couple of times. Do you think part of why you are so prolific that you work so much now is that sense that time is fleeting? Probably. Yeah, probably. And also, I have a lot inside. I think the way I connect is through stories and storytelling and playing people and having the opportunity to reach out in this quite isolated world now, and it's my way of connecting, and my way of understanding, and my way of building more and more understanding of what it means to be a human being. Kidman's drive to work to create and tell stories. It's not just about ambition or career success. It's about how she makes sense of the world and her place in it. But when that drive conflicts with the needs of a marriage, when professional fulfillment comes at the cost of intimate connection, something has to give. In this case, it appears the marriage was the casualty. Kidman's recent pivot to more explicit, challenging roles, including films like Baby Girl and A Family Affair, reportedly created additional strain. Sources claimed Urban felt uncomfortable with these roles and struggled to see her as his wife amid her on-screen intimacy. This raises complex questions about boundaries, professional freedom, and the compromises partners must navigate when one person's career choices make the other uncomfortable. Was Urban being controlling, or were his feelings valid? Was Kidman entitled to pursue roles that fulfilled her artistically, even if they troubled her spouse? These are questions without easy answers, highlighting the fundamental challenge of maintaining individual identity within a partnership. The future of their relationship remains uncertain. Urban's next tour stop was scheduled for October 2, 2025, in Hershey, Pennsylvania, while Kidman has been in London. Their professional commitments continue. Life goes on, but the emotional work of processing this separation has only just begun. With no divorce papers filed yet, the door to reconciliation remains technically open, but the emotional and psychological distance between them suggests that door may be closing. What can we learn from the dissolution of a marriage that seemed to have it all? Perhaps the most important lesson is that love, no matter how deep and how committed, is not always enough to sustain a marriage. The practical realities of life, time apart, conflicting priorities, and changing personal needs can erode even the strongest foundations. Urban and Kidman's story demonstrates that sometimes relationships end not because of dramatic betrayals or explosive conflicts, but because two people who once fit together perfectly slowly grow into versions of themselves that no longer align. The public's reaction to their separation reveals how deeply we invest in celebrity relationships as symbols of hope and possibility. When fans express anger at Urban or heartbreak over the split, they're not just responding to two famous people separating. They're mourning the loss of a narrative they needed to believe in. If Nicole and Keith, who seemed so perfect together, who survived so much, couldn't make it work, what does that mean for the rest of us? This projection of our own hopes and fears onto celebrity couples is natural, but ultimately unfair to the real people living through these very human experiences. Looking at Kidman's history, This separation marks her second major romantic loss. Her divorce from Tom Cruise in 2001 also left her blindsided and heartbroken. Yet from that devastation came not only her Oscar-winning performance in The Hours, but also eventually her relationship with Urban. The question now becomes, what will emerge from this latest heartbreak? Will it fuel her art in new and profound ways? Will it lead her to yet another transformative love? Or will it finally convince her to prioritize herself in ways she never has before? These words spoken before the separation became public now feel prophetic. Kidman has spent decades taking care of others, her children, her husband, her extended family, and the characters she portrays on screen. Perhaps this painful chapter will finally force her to make herself the priority, to take the advice her mother left her with. Take care of yourself. The comparison to other high-profile separations provides perspective. Unlike Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's 8-year legal battle involving custody disputes and abuse allegations, or Kevin Costner and Christine Baumgartner's contentious split marked by financial disputes, Kidman and Urban's separation appears to be following a more peaceful path. They seem to be modeling what Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin called conscious uncoupling, a deliberate, thoughtful approach to ending a marriage that prioritizes respect and shared commitments over conflict. This mature approach doesn't make the pain any less real, but it does suggest a foundation of genuine care that transcends the romantic relationship. After all, they will be co-parenting Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret for years to come. The girls are at crucial ages, 17 and 14, where they need both parents present and engaged. How Kidman and Urban navigate this transition will profoundly impact their daughter's understanding of relationships, conflict resolution, and what it means to love someone even when you can't be with them romantically. For Kidman, this separation arrives at a moment of tremendous professional success. Her recent work in projects like The Perfect Couple and the upcoming Practical Magic 2 demonstrates her continued relevance and power in Hollywood. At 58, she remains one of the industry's most respected and bankable stars. This professional security may provide some comfort during personal turmoil. Also raises questions about whether her career success contributed to her marriage's demise. For Urban, the separation comes as he continues to tour and create music that resonates with millions. His 2024 album High drew from past experiences while celebrating his sobriety journey. One wonders if his next musical project will process this new chapter of loss and transformation, much as his earlier work was influenced by his relationship with Kidman. The question of reconciliation lingers with no divorce papers filed as of September 30th, 2025. The legal door remains open, but emotional doors are harder to reopen once closed. Urban has reportedly moved on emotionally, acquiring his own residence and establishing a separate life. Meanwhile, Kidman continues to fight for the marriage, caught between acceptance and hope. This imbalance, one partner ready to let go while the other clings to what was, is perhaps the most painful dynamic in any separation. As this chapter of their lives closes and new ones begin, both Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban will undoubtedly carry forward the lessons learned from their 19 years together. They experienced genuine love, survived real crises, created a beautiful family, and supported each other through countless challenges. That foundation doesn't disappear just because the romantic relationship has ended. It transforms, evolves, and hopefully becomes something that honors what they built together, while allowing them both to move forward into whatever comes next. For those of us watching from the outside, their story offers no easy answers or comfortable conclusions. Instead, it provides a mirror reflecting our own struggles with balance, commitment, and the eternal question of how to maintain individual identity within a partnership. And perhaps that's the final lesson. There are no perfect relationships, no guaranteed happily ever afters, only the daily work of choosing love, choosing presence, and choosing to show up for our partners, our families, and ultimately for ourselves. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.